Sure you are concentrated. So I have to see my slide. Today I will make a presentation about how to go from 1 to 10 employees. So basically I will explain you all the issues I had from scaling Odoo at the beginning. But before that, some numbers about what we did and I did. I started Odoo in 2005. Actually, it was 2002, but I was a student at the time. Today, we have 520 employees. We have office in San Francisco, New York, Hong Kong, India. Now we have a joint venture in India. I forget we also have I don't know, remember people in China. We are opening Dubai next month with Pavitra and 2 others of our best employees that are going there. And we grow close to 70% per year on a recurring revenue, 38 million of revenue every year. Of course, it's super cool to say that, yeah, I do 38 million per year, but I want to remind you something before. It takes a lot of time. So that was in 2002, when I started Odoo. I was alone, so I was working on my computer in my student room. That was in 2003. I was still alone, working at developing the software and so on. 2004, I got a trainee, so we were 2 after 3 years. 2005, we were 4 people. It took me 4 years to go and create a company with 4 people, including me. And I had no salary, so actually it was only 3 on salary. And I'm not even sure that one of those was a trainee, so maybe only 2 on salary, on the payroll. And then I recruited Fung, which is still today a member of the executive committee. At the time, in 2006, we were 8 people. So it took me 5 years to go to a company of 8 people. And then it started to increase a little bit. In 2010, we had 135 employees. And at the time, that was the first time I did a fundraising. So I went from 0 to 135 with no money, basically. I started from nothing and then just selling to the customer, reinjecting the revenues into salaries. And at the time, in 2010, we grew the company as a service company. So we were selling management software to lots of different companies, but we were basically selling our services. So we had a product that does everything, because every customer were asking different feature, but that was extremely ugly and complex to use. So we said at the time, oh, it's time to switch back on the business model and go to a business model of some software vendor and rely on the license, develop a partner network that would sell the service instead of us all around the world and get revenue from that. So that was in 2010, and it worked, so we continued to grow, 2011, 2012. 2013 has been complex. We didn't have growth, and we were burning a lot of money, so for the first time we had to reduce our headcount. And now, today, we are close to 525, I think, employees, and we will be 1,000 employees before the end of the next year. Why do I say that? It's to say it takes the time. When people come to me and say, oh, I want to grow my company, I'm only 5, 6 people, sometimes I remind them that even I consider Odoo one of the best in Belgium. It took me 5 years to get to 5 employees. So it's normal, it's complex, it's very hard. So if you feel like it's not evolving, continue fighting. It's because we continued fighting that we went to that level. But even if it takes time, it's okay to take time if you grow every year. Not the number of employees, but if your product gets better, you create something, your assets increase. So it's not about just waiting that something happen. Every year we were investing in the product, developing feature. So it was okay if it takes time, if every year you get something better and better and better. It doesn't have to translate into number of employees or revenue. For us, it was the quality of the product. From 1 year to another, the product was completely different, even at the beginning when I was alone. And in that case, for me, it was okay to take time because every year we had the feeling that we were moving forward. If you don't have the feeling that you are moving forward, it's different. That's the way we envision Odoo, at least. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Even if you have the feeling that we run, we build for the long term, and it's a good thing. Okay, now I have a series of advice. It's my advice. It's what I had, so you take what you like and you don't take what you like. Recruitment. When you go from 1 to 10 employees, keep in mind that you will fail when you will your first recruitment. Recruitment is very hard. And if you think you can recruit, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people think they can recruit, they cannot. It's extremely hard, it takes time. And usually when you start, you will probably fail. And the problem with the first employees is that not only you fail getting the right one, but you also fail replacing them. It took me 2 to 3 years to say, okay, we have to. And at least it was not even me that decided to replace them, it was them that decided to leave. But knowing that, what can you do? The most complex role to recruit is the salespeople, especially if you are not a salesperson yourself. If you are a salesperson, maybe it works. But for a developer like me, recruiting salespeople was extremely complex because that's just a different profile, very different profile. The way to manage them are different and so on. So I did something that I think was good. I did not recruit a salesperson before I did 1 million euro. And I think it's very good because it allowed me to continue working on the product market fit. I was the first line with the customer. It allowed me that with 1 million euro, when I decided to create a sales department to recruit 3 or 4 salespeople directly, knowing that even if I fail, I will notice that 1 or 2, and I will see probably 1 or 2 good in the 4 I recruit. So if I have one advice to do is creating a company, do not delegate the role of meeting the customer to someone else until you get a product market fit. So usually go to 1 million of people, it could be 10 employees in your company, and then you are solid enough to recruit a sales team. And it's important because when you sell as a founder, you are super good. You are passionate, you like your product, you know what you are talking about. So it's very easy to sell and you are extremely efficient in that. But when you start delegating to a sales team, the performance of your sales department, even if it was 1 person, will be divided by 3. You will have people with it's not their product, so it's going to be way less efficient. So you need to be mature at a certain level in order to do that. Because you need to cover the fact that your productivity will decrease. So if I have one advice, do not recruit salespeople too fast. Do it yourself until you reach 1 million euro, and then you recruit 3 people at once, not 1. Especially if you are not a sales manager yourself. If you are a sales manager, fine, start and recruit your first person directly. Then you recruit 2, 3. Even today, when we launch a subsidiary in a different country, or when we launch a new department, I still apply the same technique. I still apply, it's called the sales learning curve approach. When we want to enter a new country, we don't recruit 10 salespeople directly. We could easily recruit 20 salespeople and say, yeah, we go on this country and we strike hard, we recruit 20 salespeople. It will fail. Because it takes time to find the right way to sell, to adapt the product to the customer, to define the sales pitch. So if you do too fast, you will just lose money on these guys. These guys will be demotivated because not everything is ready for them to sell efficiently. So even today, when we launch a new country or a new subsidiary, we recruit 3 to 4 salespeople. We wait 1 or 2 years that they get on target. And once we have two salespeople on target, then we scale the team and we put 10 salespeople. So it works at the beginning, but it also works at the end. Product market fit. So having a product that your customer likes. I always thought that we had the perfect product market fit, even when our product was shitty. And that's the problem of a founder, is that he's so passionate that sometimes he doesn't see the gap between what he has to do and what he already has. But the product market fit is key. Even though I thought I had a product market fit, the day we really had a product market fit, we filled it. Everything changed. So it's really critical. It's something you have to fight for continuously. Every year, improve, talk to the customer, and check, because once you get it, you know that you get to that level. Pricing. Pricing is more complex than you think. When I was that was my fault, but usually I was a developer, so the first project I saw, I think I was working at 150 euro per day. 150 euro per day, and I was smart, I think. So, and I was the one doing the consulting, so I think it was quite cheap for what we did. After a few years, I understood that I should maybe sell at 300, and today we sell at 1,000 euro per day. It takes time to find the right pricing. You have the feeling that the pricing is right because people purchase and things like that. But I think you should always continue thinking about, can you improve the price? Because when you go from 300 euro per day to 400 euro per day of consulting, for example, not only you increase your revenue by 100 euro, you increase your margin by 3 times, usually. So it's very important to find the right price point. If you don't know if you have the right price point, you can use this rule. If you don't lose customer, you are too cheap. If you lose all your customer, you are too expensive. So don't feel like, I'm losing some business, my price is too high. No, it's normal. If you don't lose business, it's because you are way, way, way too low. So multiply everything by 2 just to test. The business model is critical too. Finding the right way to invoice. Is it recurring? Is it per month? Is it per year? Is it this feature or this feature? It's also something where you can easily relax and say, okay, I have something that works and I stop there. Never stop there, try something else. Try to bill monthly, yearly. For the ones who know the history of Odoo, we changed everything every year. Sometimes the partner were very pissed off because of that. But we are very happy to have done that because it allowed us to evolve very, very fast. Even if you do mistake, it's better to do mistake and have the wrong price and have the wrong business model. It's much better to do a mistake rather than not evolving. It's better to focus on trying, learning, and evolving rather than being comfortable of what works. I used to do that too. It worked for Odoo. I'm not sure it will work for the other business, but I used to say that it's easier to be different rather than being better. So we just try, and when we are not better than someone, we copy. Copying someone is very easy. And you have to do it. And that's something, it's still a problem I have today with our team and our department. I would say 95% of the people, they don't like to copy. They don't want to copy, because they feel like they have to reinvent everything. The key is, you cannot be the best in everything. Maybe you are the best to build this small feature, but for the rest, there are probably people that are better than you. So you invent where you are good, the 10% where you are exceptional, you invent. For the rest, you copy, or at least you get inspired by what the others do. So you have to continue to test the competitors, even if it hurts. It's like doing your first user testing. It hurts a lot because you see people that don't like your product, but it's good because it helps you reconsidering everything you think you know. Fundraising. Fundraising is not an objective. That's something I often hear. Yeah, I want to raise 3 million, or the other side of the story, some people say, he's successful because he raised. No, fundraising is not an objective. For me, it's a means to go to something. You raise money if you need, you don't raise money if you don't need. And sometimes, not having money is living with the constraints that you don't have enough cash to do whatever you want, makes your company better. Because it forces you to fine-tune everything you wouldn't do if you had too much cash. So raise money only if you really need it, because the moment you will start to have too much money, your productivity and the way you work will start decreasing. So it's very important to find the right moment. And it costs a lot to raise money. A lot of people see only the one side of the piece, but don't forget that what you sell, because fundraising is selling your shares to get money, what you sell, your shares, is probably the only thing you would never be able to buy in the future. The rest, offices, you would be able to buy everything. I mean, if your company grows, you get a lot of cash, you can buy a lot of things. The problem with shares is that when the company grows, the value of the shares grow 10 times. So even if your company grows and you start having a lot of cash, you won't be able to buy back your shares. At least it's extremely difficult. So don't forget that, and so you have to find the right moment. When it comes to negotiation, if you want to raise money, there is one single advice that I have. The key is the timing. So you have a lot of investors. Be sure that you synchronize everyone. Don't start talking to some investor by opportunity. If they come to you, don't talk to them. When you decide to do a fundraising, you prepare your files, you prepare everything, and you go and meet everyone at once. Start by meeting the less interesting ones, because your first 3 meetings will be very bad, and then you improve your pitch, and then you will see the other. But be sure you synchronize everyone so that you have offer at the same time. Because there is nothing worse to have several investors interested, get an offer on the table, and the investor says you have two weeks to decide. And the others investors are still thinking, doing their due diligence. It's extremely complex. If you want to be in position of negotiating, be sure that you synchronize everyone. And it's not only about fundraising, it works in a lot of things. In terms of negotiation, timing is usually the main argument you could have in a negotiation. Survivors. So when you grow a company, when you see Odoo today, it feels like, okay, we succeeded, it's a big company, it's easy. It's impossible to get to that level without having moments where you are completely fucked up. I mean, it's part of the business. If you grow, it's extremely complex. You don't have cash. You've made problems. Everything is complex. I would say that over the past 10 years of Odoo, I've had 5 years where we were borderline of being bankrupt. 5 years over 10 years. And if you don't, it's because you don't move forward faster enough. That's the mindset we have today, is that if we have too much cash in the bank, which is one of our problems today, we think it's because we don't invest fast enough. And it's normal. So the difference between a company that succeeds and a company that dies is just that at this moment, those guys fight more than the others. They continue to fight and find solutions and so on. So when you have big problems, you can keep that in mind. Between the moment where you have no more cash in the bank and you become bankrupt, there is 2 years. There is the lawyers and the thing. You can easily save 2 years. So that's the time you have to save the company. Of course, it gets complex with the salaries. For years and months, sometimes I was paying the salary the 5th of the month or the 10th of the next month. But if you are transparent and you explain everything to the employees, then they will understand and most of them will stay. At least the best one will stay. And one thing to keep in mind, you will have extremely difficult moments. So it's very hard to build a company and scale a company. But the hard moment you will have will be what makes your company the best thing today. Will be sorry, I think we drank too much beers yesterday evening. So my brain doesn't work as usual. Your most difficult times will become your key advantage today. Odoo is a company today that is very different from all the others. We operate at a very high level of efficiency. We are extremely fast at making decisions. We are very good at delivering features, at changing the company. We can pivot on the business model in 2 years. And I think one of the key reasons why we are where we are is because we suffered for 6 years. For 6 years, we are fighting at improving the company, at fine-tuning the business model, changing our mindsets, and changing everything we could change. And that was part of what makes the company good today. So the difference between the successful and the unsuccessful company is just that one survived when it was difficult. So you have to trust in your own company. I think I only have 5 minutes before, or 1 minute before the question and answer. I have one last tip. One thing that could have changed my company in the past, it's use Odoo. And I'm not kidding. I feel like a salesperson when I say that, but I'm not kidding. I mean, at the beginning, I lost so much money just because I was not good at doing the follow-ups. I didn't like administrative tasks, so I didn't do the follow-up. So some customer didn't pay us, and I was not going. Sometimes I invoiced 3 months later because I didn't like to invoice right on time. And that, all the small details like that, it changed the way you grow your company. So, after my is there any question? I have 10 minutes for the question. Yes?
How did you get your first client?
I was 13 years old. So when I found my first client, it was a friend of my father. So, and I have a very bad memory, so I don't remember how it went. But basically, the first client usually is your friends. That's what we do with our partners today. When they say, I want leads, usually you do a mass mailing to all your friends, you start talking to all your network, and you find the first customer very easily. It's just about don't be shy to pick up the phone and call your friends. Any other question?
You mentioned that now you make decisions really fast. How do you still make such fast decisions even though you are growing the scale?
Okay. How do we take decisions very fast even though we grow a lot? For different reasons. One, we don't care about failing. Because we failed so much in the past and we always succeeded to turn back and succeed, that sometimes it's better to take a decision rather than waiting in order to avoid doing a mistake. So we just take the decision. It's part of our mindset, of our culture. The other reason is that we own the majority of the shares, so we don't care about the rest of the shareholders. Any other question? Yes? To delegate? Delegating is very complex at the beginning and very easy when you do it well. So when we were small, I always delegated, so it's okay. But I didn't went on holiday for 7 years. I was working 7 days on 7 per week and probably something like 16 hours per day for 7 years without leaving the office. So I was scared about leaving the office because I didn't know if the other would manage without me. And then my wife forced me to go on vacation, and she bring me in Mongolia for 3 weeks. Of course, there is no mobile phone, nothing in Mongolia. And for me, it has been enlightening because when I came back to the company, everything was running. And so being forced to leave for 3 weeks and come back, not only it helps your employee because they take their responsibility and they force, you have to trust them, but also for you, it's very good because you notice that the company works without you. Yes? Do I develop? Only for fun, so on weekends. I really like, and I have the feeling that because I don't develop, management is boring, it's too easy. I have the feeling that my brain is decreasing year after year. So I still continue developing just to, it's like a muscle, you have to practice.
How old are you?
I'm 39.
How many hours do you still work a week?
Less than before, I probably work 10, 11, but I mean, the number of hours you work is not that much. I'm probably 10 to 11, 10 hours per day at the office, but I think about Odoo all the time. So my wife will tell you that I always work, even when I sleep. So it depends on how you count. It's a matter of when you are passionate, you don't count your hours. And I was answering with something like that with my wife and say, why don't you talk about other things? And we both replied, because she's like me, that the weather and that the friends or that kind of discussion are boring. Actually, when you are used to discuss strategy, business model, product feature development, it's way more interesting. So why would you talk about the weather when you can talk about strategy? I mean, any other question? Yes?
Where do you expect to be in 10 years' time?
Where do you?
Where do you expect to be in 10 years' time?
Planning is guessing. Even a business model at 3 years, it's impossible, so why should I try to guess in 10 years? What I can tell you is that I'm pretty sure that we'll grow by at least 50 to 60% over the next 3 to 4 years per year. So next year, I'm pretty sure that we'll be 1,000 employees. Do I have time or not? 2 minutes? 2 questions.
How do you make sure that in the hiring process you keep the same mentality for the new people?
The 2 questions in one. How do you keep getting the culture? I think at the beginning, the culture is yourself. It's the way you behave with the employees. When you are 5 people, the culture is you and the way you behave. And then you start recruiting middle manager. So they become the culture. So at that time, you have to invest time with the middle manager, training them. But also you have to continue working with the base, with everyone, to ensure that things work. So for us, the reason why we still have a culture like that is, I think, because we continue working with every employee. We don't think that a manager is superior to an employee. Last question. And how do we recruit well? If I have one tip to do for recruitment, is that you have to evaluate the people not based on their experience, but based on their competencies. And the main problem I see with everyone who recruits, even the experienced one, is they recruit based on experiences. Like, they will ask questions that someone who did the job for 5 years would answer right, and someone who never did the job would answer wrong. But that's not what you want to know. Maybe he worked 5 years on this job, but he was very bad at doing it. What you want to know if he's smart, can he develop, so make him do what he would do at the job. So if you recruit a developer, make him do a development. If you recruit a salesperson, what we do, we ask them to call and sell something. And we ask them to call, it's usually another employee in another room, but we check how they sell. And avoid judging based on the resume or based on the knowledge or that kind of things, because it doesn't help. And in terms of recruitment, one thing which is strange is that one of the main things to know if you recruit, if someone is good or not, is the IQ test. For us, it's probably the second most relevant thing. The first is how they develop. The second most relevant thing to know if an employee will become good or not is the IQ test. It seems stupid, But when people are smart, they can do everything after. So I'm done here. We'll have two debates with Roald, which is here. I will let you introduce the different speakers. Serial entrepreneur, investor, I don't know how I can explain what you do. And after that, we'll have two big debates with them. I'll come back to explain you how to go from 10 to 100 employees.